But I'll do the best that I can. So hi, my name is Corey, and I'll be representing AAMI for the Storytellers event. Yeah, and the guy that was supposed to be here just texted me, but no, I'll go with the run through what I'm supposed to be saying, and I'll let you guys do yours. And so, welcome to Storytellers. It's a social justice series that captures culture, identity, and innovation through candid conversations. This is a one-on-one discussion which dives into us in our personal and professional journey. We'll be examining a very wide range of topics such as careers, community connections, and pop culture. And again, my name is Corey. And in recognition of this 3-year anniversary of Nipsey Hussle's Grammy Award-winning album "Victory Lap," the Multicultural Center, in collaboration with the African American Male Initiative (AAMI) and the Eritrean and Ethiopian Student Association (EESA), invites you to tune in to our intimate conversation with Kameron McCullough, brand architect, marketing strategist, and founder of Self-Kare Inc. and the Team. And I hope I said that correctly. That's a lot. I like what you're doing. I love your titles, man. But no, using the Victory Lap soundtrack of the late Nipsey Hussle, hip hop mogul, artist, and activist whose transformative legacy inspired a generation with his motivational lyrics and visionary business savviness. We will sound off from various topics such as identity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Kameron McCullough, he shares his journey with climbing the corporate ladder to becoming partner and CEO of the TNTH and the co-founder of D'USSE PALOOZA, as well as his new venture with Self-Kare Inc. Cam will highlight how his East Harlem house party, attended by barely 50 people in 2020 and 2012, transformed into an event that drew 9,000 people to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn in 2019. He will also provide insight about creating his own agency, striking a partnership with D'USSE and Roc Nation, 2 imprints famously owned by Shawn, Jay-Z, Carter, and pivoting during the global pandemic. But before we kick off our questions with Cam, let me introduce Iman, president of the Eritrean Ethiopian Student Association, who will share more about the late great Nipsey Hussle.
Right, thank you, Corey. Like Corey said, my name is Iman, and I'm the president of the Eritrean Ethiopian Student Association. And a little bit about Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle's real name is Ermias Joseph Askadum. He was born August 15th of 1985 in Crenshaw, Los Angeles, California, to Angelique Smith, an African-American woman, and Dawit Askadum, an Eritrean immigrant. At the age of 19, Askadum's father took both him and his brother on a trip to Eritrea, East Africa, for 3 months in 2004. Askadum Nipsey credits the trip with inspiring him to become a community activist with an entrepreneurial spirit. And so, affectionately known as Neighborhood Nip, he was deeply committed to shaping his hood. It's why he opened Vector 90, a co-working space and a STEM incubator for inner city youth. It's why he advocated for art-centric beautification projects like Destination Crenshaw, and he personally helped renovate World on Wheels, the legendary roller rink on Venice Boulevard that partially birthed West Coast hip-hop. Hussle wanted to focus on giving solutions and inspiration to people of color, especially young Black men like him. He funded improvements to neighborhood schools and spent time with students, also participating on panels about growing up in the area and the influence of gang culture. In March 2019, Hussle had contacted officials from the LAPD to arrange a meeting with him and Roc Nation about what they could do to help prevent gang violence in South Los Angeles. This meeting had been scheduled April 1st. Nipsey Hussle was shot and killed outside his clothing store on March 31st, 2019, a day before this meeting was supposed to happen. Many people will attest that Nipsey was more than just a rapper. He was someone people could relate to. His music spoke to people on a deeper level. Nipsey used his art to inspire people and assure them that with faith and dedication, you could achieve anything. And according to his life partner, Lauren London, he was not confused about who he was and what his mission was. And it was the upliftment of us as a people. Victory Lap is a debut and only studio album by Nipsey Hussle. And today we will break down Nipsey's Victory Lap project, discussing with Kameron his relation to the lyrics by sharing his unique story. So we're very excited, and I'm just gonna jump right into the questions, Cameron, so we can start this discussion.
Let's do it.
All right, perfect. So, Victory Lap, the song Victory Lap. One of the lyrics is, I'm an urban legend, South Central in a certain section. Can't explain how I curve detectives, guess it's evidence of a divine presence. So Hustle explains this powerful verse, seeing his success as both a huge victory and a life, considering everyone around him was either getting locked up or killed. Victory Lap was both a personal memoir and a professional manuscript of everything Nipsey learned and manifested. Some would say you are an urban legend. Tell us about your early life back and reflecting on your own journey. Like what does Victory Lap symbolize for you from the context of your own life?
That's a great question and a great start. I'm not sure who calls me an urban legend, but whoever does, thank you. I appreciate it. But no, I think, I identify with Victory Lap, the album, and particularly that song, the title song, for a bunch of reasons. And I think, if you just think through my life, I started off at a very, very young age with, the entrepreneurial spirit, or as we more commonly call it, hustle. And so it started for me at a very young age. I'm the youngest of three children. I'm the only boy. And so I started like kind of getting my sense of like, just business and entrepreneurship from helping my sisters sell Girl Scout cookies. And that was kind of, where I got my start of just like learning how relationships work, learning how, business works, and learning how to, kind of how to just like storytell and build narrative. So that was, that was kind of my start in entrepreneurship. And I was always hustling, whether it was legally, of course, but whether it was, cutting the grass in the neighborhood, or helping people in my neighborhood, like tutoring kids, but for a small fee on the side, and just like doing whatever I could to help people, but also see how I could make and make a few bucks off of it. So that was me at a very young age. And I think I was really blessed with very supportive parents. My mother and my father were very supportive of me, and they encouraged me to lean into my gifts, which I think was very helpful for a young Black man who's usually kind of being encouraged to do the opposite and kind of like to stifle your gifts. But for me, I was really good. I was really good in sports, basketball and football. I was great in school until probably high school, when I started like worrying about socializing and other things. But yeah, I pretty much lived your standard. I would say standard, but I had a very good upbringing, a very good childhood that just encouraged me to dream, and encouraged me to, to kind of think without limits. And like I was able to think about things in a pretty like strategic way. Did that come through? I think we pause it in.
Came through. It definitely came through. And so
that was
Okay.
And so I'll lead into the next question. I know that you. So this title of the song, I don't know if the Multicultural Center would like me to say the complete title, but it's it's rap, and then just say Black people. It's rap Black people, rap Black folk. And so Hustle, who grew up in Los Angeles, shared that he was inspired by everything Death Row, including Snoop Dogg, Tupac, Dr. Dre, the Dog Pound, and Warren G. He also mentions that he drew inspiration from the likes of Outkast, Jay-Z, Nas, and Juvenile. And so to follow up from his, his inspirations, tell us something about your own cultural influences growing up, and what artists inspire you today.
Okay, I'm going to date myself a bit here. So Nipsey and I are actually, respectfully, posthumously the same age. So I grew up in the 90s, in the pretty much in the golden era of hip hop culture. So I mean, my biggest influence was Bad Boy growing up. From the way, from the artistry to the style, to to just like the way that I would see them carry themselves in public, and like just like the presence that they showed, that was always so inspiring to me, and always something that I wanted to like emulate and be like, to the point where we were like I graduated from eighth grade the year that More Money, More Problems came out, and we were all trying to find like the Air Force Ones with the jewel and like the matching like sweatsuits to go and dance and do like the video. So like to me, it was always like I was always like, you know, kind of enamored with the showmanship. And you know, as I got older, I learned about, you know, the way, you know, the Puff is a businessman, and that was inspiring to me as, you know, I was again, you know, just thinking a little deeper than what was on the surface. And then I think if you think about like kind of who inspires me today, it varies, you know. Obviously, Hove, Jay is a huge inspiration to me, you know, as an artist and as a businessman and just as a man, and in the way that he, you know, he carries his business, you know. But I'm also inspired now by a lot of younger artists who are really using their voices, you know, to amplify messaging and to talk about, you know, the social issues that are happening to now. Hip hop has always been like super conscious, and I think that it, you know, people kind of talk about, you know, mumble rap and trap rap now kind of dominating, but there are still like artists who are using their voices, including people that they would classify as trap rappers, like a Little Baby, you know. Obviously J. Cole speaks out a ton. So like those guys inspire me in that way of like the way that they use their platform. And then, you know, and I think when I look at the way that, you know, hip hop is kind of aging, and, you know, you see the Jay-Z's and you see the Nas's on the business front and what they're doing to establish, you know, not only their own longevity, but like establishing generational wealth for their families by, you know, what they choose to invest in, you know, how they choose to move around their money, you know, where it's like it just shows you the possibilities aren't limited to, you know, where you come from. And, you know, like where you come from doesn't necessarily that isn't a determiner of like where you ultimately end up. You know, it's up to you to constantly be thinking around evolution, you know, be thinking about your next move and your next play and just how you can, you know, keep improving. So I think I answered that. But yeah, like I would say Jay, I would say Nas on the business front, and then with those who are using their voices, the J. Cole's, Lil Baby, Kendrick Lamar, obviously. So yeah, though artists like that.
Okay, so you mentioned something really important in that last answer about how where you come from doesn't have to determine your outcome. And this next song that I want to mention is from the album is Last Time That I Checked. And I'm going to mention lyric again. And I take my time and take my tribe every level that I cross in this game like state lines. Nipsey credits his inspiration for the song to Jay-Z, not to just like the Jeezy catalog or the E40 catalog, there are jewels that would benefit an individual's life and financial status if he were to live by them. I understand art reflecting life, but we grew up on art constructing life, he says. Nipsey was a champion of independence and example for artists designing their own rules. Being self-made also means being comfortable working with what you have. It's about realizing there are different levels throughout your journey, and you have to be patient. Most people want to skip the process, not knowing that when you skip steps, you miss the lessons.
Yep.
Being self-made is about embracing the process, knowing that you're going to go and get all about valuable jewels that you can't teach someone. Wisdom, only the game, and experience can teach you. So I want to ask, how do you define being self-made, and what were some gems that you gained on your journey?
I would define self-made. I think it's become such a like cool and trendy thing to be, you know, and like along with, you know, just the entrepreneurship lane. I would define self-made me, what made me self-made is that I was always willing to first bet on myself and my ideas and my talent, and then from there create kind of a plan and a strategy around that. And like self-made doesn't necessarily mean, you know, that you own your own business or that you work for yourself. You can be self-made in whatever position it is that you hold, you know, whether it be within your, you know, your student e-boards or your workplace. It's all about you, the person, and how you choose to present yourself, who the person that you choose to be, and that reflects through, right? So it doesn't necessarily come with a title or with a business, but it's really about that person that you are and how you choose to show up. And for me, it was huge that in all of my businesses that I showed up as my true self. And in all my endeavors, I showed up as my true self and kind of let that guide me. whereas I didn't come to it with, a lot of like preconceived agendas and like things that I see it going this type of a way. It was more so for me like inserting myself as myself and then kind of letting that carry me, because I mean, like what a lot of people, knew me for was this huge event. And what a lot of people don't know is that I actually hated throwing events at that time. And it was one of those things that I was kind of pushed into it, but I just kept showing up as myself, and all of the variables and the factors that pushed it to be this great thing, they started happening because I was operating as my full self. So, just to speak to the point of just being self-made, it's how you show up as yourself, and what's that part of your personality? Like me, I show up as myself. And a part of that is seeking out opportunity and sharing it with others, right? So like people would say that makes you, self-made, that makes you a boss, that, you're able to go out and get other people paid. But, that may not be in some other people's DNA. It may just be for them to show up as themselves and do the best possible things for them. You're still self-made. So I think it's, it's all interpretation, and it's all relative. But in that case for me, I wasn't one of those guys either who was like, man, I don't want to work for nobody. Like, I don't want to do that. Like I carried a full-time, high-paying corporate job for a decade. But it wasn't until I was kind of like, even there, I was showing up as myself and I was leading, I was leading from within. And ultimately people who were around me knew that I was destined for probably greater things. But I just went into every single situation, every role, every opportunity, every project as myself, if that makes sense.
I mean, I like that answer, and I think like that'll lead into the next theme. The next title of the track is dedication, and
Yep.
Nip said dedication is hard work plus patience. He spoke extremely candidly about his ups and downs on the marathon called life, so much so that he trademarked TMC, the marathon continues. His unwavering resolve to not quit was captured on the album by tracks such as Real Big and Dedication specifically. And so, to add on to your last answer, the question that is asked today is share some of your real big transformation moments and what has motivated you to be so resilient and to sustain dedication in this moment.
Yeah, I've always kind of like walked to the beat of my own drum, or kind of walked on my own path. And I'll start with saying that the path to success, the path to happiness, the path to peace is not a linear path. So I've had a lot of transformative moments, that have just brought me to the place that I am now. I would start with, I'll give you a couple. I would start with just like when I was in New York, I was working in advertising. When I was in New York City, I was working in advertising for some of the biggest, basically publishing companies you could think of, like companies that make Esquire magazine, GQ. And I had a pretty high ranking job. And I remember, at the time I was working on GQ, in digital ad sales. And I got fired from that job, and it wasn't because of my performance. It was because of a relationship, a working relationship gone sour. And I kind of just started to see the other side of corporate America, and what that made me realize, because how much I love the company, I love the work that I was doing. It started getting my mind into the mode of I need to be in the CAM business more than I am in the business of, wherever I'm working at. So like, yes, absolutely go to work and do the best job possible, but also make sure that, you're protecting yourself, and that you're looking out for your own best interests. And, like make sure that whatever company that you're at, like, yes, you're doing absolutely everything that you need to do, but you're also making that place work for you. So that, that was a huge transformative moment. And that kind of really started because I was starting my business at the time in my agency, but really quietly, and kind of like spotty activations. But that really started me on that path. And I was in 2013, like early 2013. So I would say that was a transformative moment. Another huge and probably the most transformative moment in my life was becoming a father. And you know, to a child that is not living. You know, I experienced a loss of my daughter, and that process of even getting ready to be a father, it really honed me in on everything that's important. Because while you're a businessman, while you're trying to, you know, build wealth, and while you're trying to provide opportunity, it's very easy in entrepreneurship to lose sight of yourself as you're building these things, because you're so caught up in creating, you're so caught up in building, that you don't realize that you could absolutely be depleting yourself. And that happened, wow, that happened 2 years ago. So, and you know, and the transformation that I've gone through in the last 2 years, like just experiencing that and really getting back to the core, like we spoke about with yourself, like getting back to being to the core of the man that I am, that has like transformed not only, you know, myself personally, my relationship to, you know, to my partner and to my family, to my business partners, but that's just transformed me completely, to the point where now, like, the person that I am shines through all the work that I do. I was able to, you know, to lose a business and create three more, you know, just off of, you know, what's important to me. And I think, you know, just those transformative moments are much bigger, you know, to me than a lot of the things that would be bigger to other people, like us doing Barclays Center. That's huge. But, you know, at that point, that kind of just, that felt like a stamp on all of the work that I was leading up to doing. Like we speak about dedication in that, and, you know, in that path. And I think I was so dedicated to the thing that I wasn't necessarily as dedicated to myself as I needed to be. And now that dedication to myself has allowed me to do even greater things, you know, in a short amount of time in a pandemic. So, you know, just thinking through those things, when you talk about transformative, I think it's that I think people look at it, especially, you know, you guys, everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to be, you know, entrepreneurs, successful business people. But you got to start with that personal look. And it's very personal to you, the person, you know, to Corey, to Iman, the people, that you guys are honed in on that first. And then all of this other stuff, because you guys are great and intelligent people, all that other stuff will figure itself out.
Wow, that was such a moving answer. Oh my God. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next song actually. And I was actually listening to the song yesterday. Hustle and Motivate. um, and, and so one of the lyrics, Nipsey raps is, "It's all I'm trying to do, hustle and motivate, choppers to throw away, hustle the hobo away." And Nip said, "Cultural capital is becoming more valuable than a dollar." And that actually reminded me of what you just said, you know, stay true to yourself. And so, with both his cultural and capitalist credibility growing, it's natural to draw comparisons between Nip and Jay-Z. So, how have Nip and Hove, I think that's how you say it, inspired you? And speak to the importance of cultural capital and mentorship.
They both inspired me in similar ways and in different ways. And I think the similar way, and like kind of the common thread between the both of them, is kind of, you know, what I said earlier, like the path to success isn't linear. You know, like Jay didn't break really into rap until he was 26, 27 years old. And that's considered old in rap. You know, you got kids popping at 16, 8, like I think Nas broke when he was like 18. And, you know, and even when he first broke, it wasn't like critically acclaimed, and he wasn't received, you know, in the way that he is now. And what it just showed me, and, you know, same thing with Nip. Like Nip was a neighborhood legend. He was an LA legend, but Victory Lap, his first technical album, was the first time that I think he got national acclaim, and like people were talking about him everywhere, and he was becoming, you know, this cultural iconic figure. But what you don't see is just the amount of work and time that it took to get there. And, you know, I think like that's what I appreciate the most about them. Like, yes, I appreciate everything that they've built, you know, off of their success. I believe I champion people who use their cultural capital in that way. But that road to get there, to me, is just so inspiring, because, you know, like people look at you and think, Jay-Z sells 5 million records, you know, on volume 2, and like all of a sudden he's an overnight success. But it's like, no, he's been rapping for 10 years. You know, like people will see us, you know, do a huge event, you know, whether it be the Barclays Center event or see me build an agency, you know, worth 7 or 8 figures and think that it's an overnight success and not know that, you know, I have been literally trial and error my entire career, whether, you know, be in finance, be in advertising, be running my own creative agency. So I really appreciate, you know, their appreciation for the journey. And I think what's really cool about that is that because of that journey, they're very protective and of you know what they've gained. And I think that with that, you know, they kind of it's precious, you know, in a sense, right? It's not like something that they don't think they can't lose or they think they can't do again, but just their appreciation for what they have because of what they've done to get it, I think is super inspiring. And to the cultural capital piece, um, I think gentlemen like that, I like to think the same of myself, is just we understand that nothing moves without us. And I think, you know, a lot of people say that on the cultural side, like, you know, nothing moves, you know, and black, and like I say it all the time, like people say black culture, you know, like I'm like, black culture is culture. Everything that you see, you know, on television and movies, you know, just in politics, like everything is a is kind of a variation of black culture. So I think having that deeper understanding of that and just knowing how much value we have and that, you know, we actually don't need other people. You know, I think when we look into that and we try to branch out, you know, people call it crossing over or selling out, whatever people call it, it's this mindset that, you know, we need more than what we have to succeed. And while yes, we need resources, we need investment, we need, you know, venture capital money, but there's black dollars in that too. So just kind of understanding alignment in that sense too, it really gives you just a better one. It gives you a better kind of business direction, but it also like it enriches that sense of self that you should have, and just understanding that and understanding how valuable that is. You know, I think that's what we have to do more of as a culture, is just teach people exactly how valuable that cultural capital is. Because if you knew, if you know, it's like they would say, like, I can show you the value of a dollar, but until you lose your own, it's like you don't know. So I think people understanding the real value of cultural capital will go a long way in not only how we, you know, start to break some of these like systemic issues and start to like, you know, get, you know, gain wealth for ourselves and for our families and start to like change the trajectory of, you know, our people. Yeah, I think it's just it's one of those things that we have to start doing because it's there. And like we're seeing it now more than ever. You're seeing so many, you know, self-made millionaires, 100,000aires, you know, tens of millionaires just happening over a pandemic. And like these are black owned businesses, you know, whether it be hair, nails, do-rags, t-shirt lines. Like you're seeing it, and you're seeing it all being rooted in culture. And I think like everything that I've done, from a professional standpoint, at least since I've been on my own, has been really culture centric. And you know, I got a pretty good quote, when we started partnering with Roc, and it was, you know, we work culture out. So it's like inside out. So we start with culture and we work out. And that has just that's a bulletproof formula. If you Because the ideas that flow out of that, you know, just allow you to just lead with innovation. And if you can strategize around that, you're unstoppable. And you see companies like Beats by Dre. Like Beats by Dre is you know, let me get this wrong. Beats by Dre is an 11-figure company at this point, you know, but that was all built in culture and in hip hop culture. And, you know, we had one of our leaders on the forefront of that who did find, you know, the right partners to kind of push it. But even in that, it's not Beats by Dre without all of that cultural capital, you know. Same thing goes for like, you know, the titles of the world and just different things that we have. So I think it's just back to that of understanding the value. That was a super long-winded answer, but I wanted to make sure I came home on that.
You know, I think I speak for everybody when I say I appreciate the length of it. Honestly, you don't want to miss out on anything, and it honestly leads up into the next question. And so the title of the next song is "Keys to the City 2." And in this song, Nip was considered like a fact check for LA. He recognized that did with the Rolling 60s called a blueprint. He called it a blueprint, basically. I can't even say that word, but a blueprint. There we go. He encourages other gang members to follow the blueprint. Link up with your team, build businesses, build enterprise, create additions for your young people to come up underneath. He said, that's the bragging rights. He says that the metric is what, is what we build as entrepreneurs and as leaders, and that's what the song is about. He said a lot of people hide their footsteps and don't share the game. And in terms of our question for you today, it's what's your blueprint? Like, what's your business model? And what would you share about the game to anybody aspiring to be an entrepreneur and looking to follow in your footsteps?
I think if I was to speak to my blueprint or my business model, it's a rhetorical question almost that I always ask, and it's, why are we doing this? Because if I can get to that answer of why I'm doing something, then I can do everything else that's needed. I can apply strategy, I can come up with brilliant ideas, I can hire the right team. So I think in anything that I do, it's always, why are we doing this? And then I think my model is always get with good people and get out of their way. And I've always, it's been chronicled, like I've had teams along the way that I've built, and I think it was just really thinking about what we needed to achieve, and then who was best suited to help me achieve that. And like, I know what I'm good at, and I also know what I'm not good at. I'm trying to get better at more things, but along the way, there's just things that other people can do that will help you to push forward. And I think it's important to even more important than that too, which I'm learning and continuing to grow in, is more than like the talent of the people. It comes back to that self thing and like the type of people that they are. So I think it's like understanding the type of people that you're working with, and then selling the vision and getting people locked in on the vision. So for me, that's a huge thing too, where we can't get to where we need to go if the people that I'm working with don't believe in it as much as I do. So that's really my model, I would say, with business, and just kind of how I do business. And then to kind of what I would share as advice to entrepreneurs and to young people is, be infatuated with the quality of work and not necessarily with who supports you, because support, we all want support, right? Like we all want, it could be anything. You don't even have to be selling something. It's like if you tweet something, you want people to retweet it and interact with it. If you post a picture on the gram, you want people to like it, because that's support, right? But support is relative, and support is fickle. Whereas I always tell people, let's be addicted to the quality of the work that we're doing. And because if you do good things, they will always shine, and they will come to the top. They may not shine when you want them and how you want them, but there are things that I did 6 years ago that kind of fell by the wayside, but I saw an opportunity to represent them or repurpose them, and because the quality of the work was so good, they were received 6 months later. So it's like, it's also, even in that, you don't control time. So at the end of the day, all you can control is your output and the quality of work that you're doing. So I say that to every entrepreneur in whichever space you're in, whether it be in technology, if you're in events, if you're making products. I think it's always just that, be obsessed with the quality of your work, and surround yourself with people who have ideas. Is that good?
Yeah, that was great. I really love that answer. I took notes and everything. You said. But just to like transition to the next song, Nipsey, especially this Victory Lap album, it was the best thing. And so the next song is Million While Young, and I'm reading some of the lyrics. Pressure on my shoulder, weigh a ton. You should try and do what we done. Make $1 million while you young. And so Nip shared a couple of principles he led by, which kind of reminded me of what you said, making sure that your work is quality. And so those principles are honesty and servant leadership. And that again speaks to what you pointed out about the quality of your work. But he described this as the willingness to fill in the blanks when you're in guerrilla mode and the ability to hold and be held accountable. So we would like if you could describe what makes a great leader and what principles do you stand on that shape your leadership style? And how do you manage the pressure in not only becoming successful, but helping others on your team become successful as well?
Great question. I think the qualities of a good leader, I like to think I have a couple of these, but accountability is at the top of the list, because you one have to start with the accountability with yourself, but accountability within the business and within the people that you work with at every level is what's going to make sure you have a great company. That's at the heart of every great company, is accountability. And then I think another quality of a good leader is empathy, not sympathy, where you're able to, you know, kind of put yourself in people's shoes, because that makes you pretty, that gives you a leg up on communicating and being able to relate to people. And like for me, my leadership style, it kind of bends a few ways, because you can't lead everyone the same way. Whereas some people I need to be a bit more vocal with and a bit more, you know, like hands-on. And then there are some people that I can just give the task to and I don't need to manage or you know, or micromanage, I would say. So it's just like understanding your people, understanding the type of people that you have. So that's why I say empathy. And then you have to have the courage. You have to have courage. And it's really when it comes down to making decisions. Like you have to have the courage to make a decision, and it could necessarily not be the right decision. So you have to have courage to be wrong. You have to have the courage to experiment and the courage to take risk. And then, you know, also just the capacity and the courage to take whatever comes with that. So at the end of the day, it's the courage, it's empathy, accountability, and I think a little bit of stubbornness, because not to the point that it's derailing, you know, your operation or it's derailing deals, but you're so ingrained as a leader and you probably believe in it the most that so many people are going to try to move you off of your spot, right? Like you guys probably experience this when you start talking about things you want to do. Like people start speaking doubt into you right away, and people start like, oh, I don't know, like that seems pretty far out, that seems pretty difficult, but you believe. So, you know, you have to kind of have that stubbornness, not to the point of, you know, of your detriment, but you have to believe in your thing and in yourself and what you're doing more than anyone else. And you know, stubbornness has worked out both ways for me. You know, like sometimes I've stayed a place probably a little too long because of stubbornness, but sometimes I've stayed just long enough because I was willing to wait something out that someone else wasn't. And that's another thing too. And it kind of circles back to the quality of your work, because if what you're doing is good or great, it'll come around. So I think like just because it's not received, you shouldn't be discouraged, or you shouldn't walk away from it. You know, I think, you know, that's like the cliche, you know, don't quit or don't give up on something, but that's real. It's cliche because it's real. And, you know, I think like a lot of people, especially now in the age of social media and just how quick, you know, everyone's successful, everyone's gorgeous, you know, everyone has money. But you know, people aren't showing you the process. People aren't showing you their losses. So it's up to you to kind of internalize on your own and say, no, I believe in this. I'm going to continue to believe. I don't care if I keep pushing this out and it gets 10 likes. I'm going to keep putting it out, because all it takes is for the right person to see it or the right person to share it, and it's going to do exactly what it needs to do. So that's what I mean when I say stubbornness, is just like because I guess the better word for it would be, you know, convicted. Like you have to be convicted in what you're doing, and you have to believe in it. And like that's not a thing that's like a lifetime thing either. Like you can be convicted and hyper committed to something, and if it doesn't work or you're just tired of it, you can move on and try something else. But like I think that's a lot of things with people now, is they're scared of that conviction and that commitment, because, oh, if I do all this work and it doesn't work, then I failed. And it's like, no, if you do all this work and you do all the learnings and you know you're honest about what's happening, you don't fail, you learn, and that could be the last, that could be the last failure that you have, or that could be the last no that you experience, because you were committed and convicted. So yeah, I hope that answered the leadership question.
Did it always seems like you touch on what we want to ask next in every single question.
I didn't read the questions before. I didn't. Send them to me. I didn't read them.
I got you. No, so Nip spoke a lot about the power of purpose and intention. And so this is just a quick question. Describe your mission and the impact you aspire to make on the culture.
My mission is to lead with integrity. And you spoke about I just want to be impactful, and I want to change as many things as I possibly can. And I know that I am one person, and I'm not able to, to save the world or to save everybody or even to save all my friends. But my mission in life is to leave everything that I encounter better than I left it. And that's a pretty heavy statement to say, but it's not that heavy when you think about it, because if I'm able to, interact with you guys and you just take one thing away from this conversation, whether it's betting on yourself or, believing, being a little stubborn on your ideas, I've left this situation better than I found it. And so I think it's just like thinking about that and thinking of kind of the layers and levels of impact. It's like I wanted when, after George Floyd, we all wanted to like change the world, right? We all wanted to end systemic racism and do this, and, march and I think that was really eye-opening to me, just to see the different levels of impact that you could have. While you have folks in the streets marching and doing anything, you have people, behind the scenes trying to make those meetings happen and trying to get legislation changed and, pushing, like police reform and things of that nature. So I was able to really see that, because I was really upset, at the time, obviously, as we all were, but I was upset because I felt powerless. But at the end of the day, I was like, no, if I could just galvanize my community, or if I could help, rally people to a march and do those things, or like raise awareness or start a conversation within our community, that's impact. So I think it's understanding the layers and the levels of impact, and then circling it back again to yourself. Like, what does that look like to you? What does that feel like to you? Because you may not even be comfortable saying that to a group of people, or like friends, or like getting people together. It might just be starting a conversation with your roommate. It might be starting a conversation with your family, and that improves and that impacts. So it's like we got a long way to go, but it all starts in the community. And so I think even thinking around like just impactful ways that you can, ways that you can be impactful, in your community. So yeah, I start there, man. I start there.
That is a great answer. And I just want to piggyback off of your last point about, always remembering your community. And so Nipsey's song Higher in the album, he has a line where he says, in one generation, he came from Africa young. And I love this line because I myself am from Africa, and I'm Ethiopian Eritrean. And so I want to ask, how has culture and heritage shaped who you are as a Black man, and how do you wish to use your platform to elevate issues impacting Black and Brown communities?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I think, well, when I think about that, and being a businessman, being a family man, being a man of my community, it all starts that I am a Black man first. So my experience in America is different from everyone else's experience in America that is not a Black man. And just having to navigate that my entire life, it's been probably the most intricate learning experience that a person could have, you know, and there's so much nuance within it, right? There's so many microaggressions that you have to go up against. And I think for me, what it's allowed me to do, and like what's allowed me to like kind of come to my belief on, is that I can be many things, and I can be whatever it is that I need to be, you know. And obviously I lead with my Blackness, like, and my household is a very Black house, so everything is you know, super Black over here, and like we stand for what we stand for, and we stand on it. And I think where I have a lot of opportunity is in business, is I don't shy away from those conversations. Like what are we doing to, you know, to uplift Black people, and beyond that, because like there's a bunch of inspirational stuff for Black people now, but like what are we doing to empower those people after we inspire them? So, you know, like how are we investing in our youth? Like what programs do we have in place? Like what funds are there where we can support young entrepreneurs? So, you know, getting myself involved in that, down to, you know, down to a Self-Kare Inc., where we're literally, you know, improving, you know, and giving resources to Black men and women, you know, just not only through conversation, but we're giving them tools. We're starting a therapy fund. We're just doing all of these things that our community needs. So, but that's all birthed out of my experience. You know, it's out of things that I needed. Like I didn't start Self-Kare until after I was going, you know, to start going to therapy, and like just like start working on myself. And in doing that work, I was like, man, more people probably need this, you know. So as I lead into that and just like think about like kind of where we are as a people now, it all starts in the community. That's where we need to start, and we need to strengthen that first. And I think it's by all of us being, you know, just a bit more accountable, a lot more compassionate, and a lot more understanding, because everybody's experience is different. You know, even like I said, like my experience is probably different from everyone else's. That's probably every single, you know, Black and brown person in America. Like even though we have similar experiences, it's still some nuance and some differences. So I think like just committing to compassion and committing to understanding one another will get us further, because like it's another cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. We can do a lot more together than we can apart. And you know, I think we're seeing that in doses, but we're also fighting a lot of conditioning. We're fighting a lot of things systems that have been put in place to oppose us to one another. But you know, we've got a lot of thoughtful people and a lot of smart people who are starting to debunk that, and figure out ways for us to progress, and real progress, not, you know, not a Black person in a TV commercial, or not a Black person leading, you know, a movie. Because we like, while that's great, that's not doing much to really impact our communities. And you know, that's where it starts for us. And I think, you know, we're starting to come around to that ideology, and that, you know, we got to fix us, you know, internally, and then start to move through it.
Okay, and this will be the last question from us.
Oh man,
I know.
man, you guys are good at this, by the way. You guys have a future.
Listen, we got some good people behind us as well. Believe it. But Double Up it's a song, and I'm gonna read one of the lyrics from it. It's double up 3 or 4 times. I ain't telling no lies. I just run it up. Never let a hard time humble us. And so it's kind of 3 questions that I'm about to ask you, kind of just in a sequence.
Okay.
What has been the most humbling time of your life, and how has the pandemic forced you to pivot? And so, and then following that one, and I'll if you need me to ask you again,
yep.
I got you. But the last one will be, and what's next?
What has been the most humbling time of my life? Man, I've had a lot of humbling times, but I think for the nature of, you know, what we're talking about today, the most humbling time for me was a year ago, where literally the event series, the platform that we're speaking about that I built, I lost that entire business. You know, I lost that business, which was, you know, at the time a 7-figure business. And you know, it wasn't all due to COVID, you know, so that really forced me to sit in everything, like sit in everything I built, everything I had done, everything I hadn't done. And what it taught me was a bunch of things, but the main lesson was that everything that you do, everything that you'll build, everything that you create is a product of you. You're not a product of the things that you build. So, while I was doing those things, like I was really stressed. I was really sad because this thing that I had built and I had started to kind of take on the identity of the thing, and the thing didn't really have my identity anymore. Like I found myself so wrapped up in that once it ended, I felt really lost. And I was like, man, like what do I do? How do I pivot? Because everybody, when COVID hit, the hustlers are like, everyone's like, oh, we got to pivot, we got to pivot, we got to pivot. I'm like, no, I don't have it in me to pivot. Like, yeah, I'm never short on ideas, but there was no inspiration. And I think that was really the Lord and my body and mind protecting me, in the sense of saying, no, you have some other work to do first. So going through that process, a very lengthy, painful, and hard process of dealing with myself, it's brought me back stronger than ever, better than ever, to the point where I've started a not-for-profit with Self-Kare that's doing phenomenal work in the community. I've rebuilt an agency that's based in content. I'm now a partner in a huge tech brand that's about to blow. That's based in music and influencers, called Music Breaker. So that came to, but all that stuff started coming to me after I started doing that work on myself. So, I think when we speak about a pivot, the pivot was really a personal pivot, and, choosing to honor myself, to honor my values, to honor how I was brought up, and, to lead with that, as opposed to leading with ideas, leading with strategy, like, because those things are still there. They're not going anywhere. I'm not going to lose my mind, knock on wood. I'm not going to lose my mind anytime soon. So I will always have, those abilities, but those abilities won't nearly be as impactful as they need to be if I wasn't right as a person. So the pivot was really a personal pivot. And what was the second question again?
Just what's next? What's next for you?
Man, what's next? The world is next. Man, I'm doing a lot of exciting things in fast moving spaces. So like I mentioned Music Breaker. It's an app that connects artists with influencers to break music. And it's like really this kind of evolving and revolutionary marketplace that I think is going to blow up. And like I said, I sit on the board, but I'm actually like the president of the agency. So that's what you'll see there, is we're going to really start to change the way music is not only broken but consumed, and it's going to happen pretty quickly. And then I think I mentioned with Self-Kare, we're actually doing a Self-Kare conference, which I'll invite you guys to. Everyone is welcome, of all ages. It's free. Where we're going to focus on, a lot of those issues like mental health, mentorship, health and wellness, financial literacy. So it's going to be like an all-day conference that I'm really excited about, and that's going to start to really be, kind of what the brand fabric of Self-Kare is. And then lastly, I'm doing a lot of, pardon the pun, I'm doing a lot of storytelling. And making a lot of content. So hopefully I got a few things in the works. We're pitching a few show ideas. I push a lot of stuff out through my podcast, which is like a visual podcast, and it's called Handcrafted. And yeah, so I have a lot of stuff happening, but everything feels like me, and I think like that's a blessing. Like I don't take it for granted. Every single day I wake up, I get to do things that I believe in with people that I believe in. And that is an amazing, like that's success to me. is I get to wake up and do things that I am passionate about, things that I believe in, and I get to do it with people who are dependable and some people who think bigger than I do. So, that's just an ultimate blessing. I'm super humbled by this place that I'm in my life and how I'm able to, move and navigate through it, and continue to, have uplifting conversations with young people like yourself who are super inspiring as well. So, man, I say all that to say, not to get too spiritual. I don't want to offend anyone religiously, but God is good. God is really good. And, I am thankful to be in this position, and like, what's next, hopefully, a really nice house one day, and, and maybe a sports car or six. But no, man, I'm halfway kidding. But no, I think like the best is yet to come for me. And, that is something that I didn't feel comfortable saying a couple years ago, but now I can see it very clearly. And, the fact that I don't know everything is that used to give me anxiety, but now it's exciting because I don't fear what's around the corner. I actually look forward to it.
Wow, I think in that last answer, the way that you mapped out how the pandemic was a moment of truth where you really got to connect with yourself was really inspiring. And I really love that. And so I want to open the floor to participants to ask you any questions that they have. I know me and Corey, yeah, me and Corey asked a lot of great questions, but I think the participants can ask you some questions. I think we have something in the chat, um, and I'm going to read it out.
Mhm.
This is a question from Justice. Um, Nipsey's community work was integral to his public image as well as his own personal identity. How has being an entrepreneur or businessman enabled you to give back to the community or to those who want to aspire to be in your position? I know you touched on that a little bit, but it would be nice if you could elaborate more.
Sure. I think my contribution and my way that I'm giving back to my community is through teaching. Obviously I do charity work, but to me the value in me and me as a person, is to, and the way I want to give back is through knowledge and through resources. So, not just doing, conversations and panels like this, but I offer my mentorship up to people all of the time, and in any way that they may need it. Like I'm open to walking someone through how to start a business. I'm open through having very transparent conversations about entrepreneurship with people, and then I am the king of connecting people and giving, and like, because I think like the resource of people is the most valuable resource you can have, and I have been blessed to have a vast network of people. And for me, I think that's probably where you can really start with younger people, with youth, and with your community, is making those connections, and then doing it in a way that ensures that the relationship goes further than that initial conversation. And me, I'm always looking to help people. I'm always looking to, like, like I said, inspiration is everywhere, so I can't necessarily say I'm looking to inspire people. Like, I think, that's been cheapened over the time, but I'm looking to, just generally help people through mentorship, and, through working through providing resources. So I think like it's one of those things. Like, I just recently did a scholarship, for NYU students, for Yellow Brick, to give students who wanted to get into, either hospitality or a creative field. We were able to give them courses. So that went out to about 20 students in New York, and of all ages. So even, like I say, like, giving back to the younger, it's people older than me that I also offer my resources to and give. So I think like that's always kind of been who I am. I'm just figuring, as I grow and go along, I'm figuring out better ways to do it and more impactful ways to do it. And, to really just, help people become their best selves. However I can do that. Like I said earlier, like, the impact piece is like, it's layered and it's levels. But, however I can be of assistance, and however I can, be a guide to people, I'm always down to do.
All right, thank you so much. I think we have one person who's raising
Okay.
their hand. Gianna, I will unmute you, or you can unmute yourself, Gianna.
Hi everybody. Hi
Hi,
Cameron.
hi, Gianna.
I have a question. My first question was, well, what advice would you give for connecting with other creatives and or entrepreneurs?
Mhm. Is it a two-part or is that the question?
That's my first question.
Okay. Well, there are a bunch of different ways to connect. I mean, obviously, social media is is a great tool, but there are websites. There's like this actual group that I just found, which I think it's called like the Collective, which is just a group of creatives, whether it be like marketers, graphic designers, strategists, and it's kind of just a network of people. Which I'm going to try to find it while I'm still on and give you guys a link to it. But then I think with connecting and like kind of networking, it's a mindset piece too, where like I think nowadays everybody is trying to like network up, right? Where I think like there's a huge opportunity to just meet your peers. So I think if it's whether it's going to, you know, events on campus or, you know, if you guys are old enough, maybe it's happy hour. And like just like find and then talking to people. And I think like it's not talking to people with like, you know, hidden agendas or intentions, but the more conversations you have, you realize like you find stuff out and you find different connection points for people because like you may not necessarily be connecting with the person in your mind that you thought you should be connecting with, but they may know the person. So I think it's always just about being genuine in your conversation and you know like and making I think making your kind of making your goals and your aspirations like known to people. That's the thing that I think a lot of people are scared of now, where it's like, yeah, I want to be this or I want to do this, and you're scared if you tell somebody they'll take the idea or they'll do that. Whereas, again, kind of back to that piece I was saying about being confident in your own stuff, like nobody can do it how you do it. So if you lead with that, more times than not, you'll actually be led into opportunity. You'll be led into relationships as opposed to kind of holding all that stuff to yourself and trying to figure it out. Like I'm old school. I like to go out and meet people and talk to people. Obviously, COVID's done a lot to hamper that. But no, I think you network across, like you find people with common interests that are around you, that are in your community. And you know, if you want to dream big, start DMing people on Instagram. Like, you know, but no, I think there's a bunch of ways to do it and use your resources. Like you're probably in the biggest networking pool you'll ever be in while you're in school. And a lot of people that I've built businesses with, a lot of people that have signed checks for me are people that I went to college with and you know and built relationships with. Like I said, social media, I said like Instagram, but Facebook is your friend. LinkedIn is your friend. I think even like and networking, it's also another layer of networking where it's like you're not necessarily talking to people, but if you go on like a LinkedIn and you're able to see how someone maybe has their resume formatted or like the type of groups someone is in, like those things can be helpful as well in that networking piece. And then it's just like I said, just lead with yourself. You know, if you're dope, you'll find dope people, and they'll find you. Was that
Thank you for
helpful?
that.
Was
Yeah,
like a
no,
super.
no, no. That
Okay.
was great. That kind of confirmed, a lot of the things I've been thinking of and hearing lately, and I've just been pushing myself to really put myself out there and, like you said, have these conversations. So I do value everything you just said. And also, hearing about Music Breaker,
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of like a whoa, like that sounds really dope. And I'm a music management major, and so I was just wondering if you, with music, like I know it's new, but do you think there will
Yep.
be any like internships or opportunities coming forward that?
See, this is how you shoot your shot. We are actually looking for interns as we speak.
Oh,
My division. So I will share my email with you guys. I don't care. There's you guys are aspiring young people. If you want to write it down, my email is KAM at musicbreaker, musicbreaker.com. Shoot me your resume. Quick paragraph summary about yourself. I think at this point, for where you guys are, I'm more interested in the type of people you are. But yeah, we can definitely have a conversation. We're in the middle of bringing on a few interns now, to work on the label side and to work on the brand side. So yeah, shoot me resumes. I will answer you. That email is connected to my cell phone that's sitting right next to me. And yeah, I look forward to connecting.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, thank you so much for that insightful answer, Cameron. I needed that too, so thank you for asking that, Gianna. And next, Ms. Sinclair has I think, has a question, so she will
Tia
go ahead.
can't ask me any questions. Tia can't ask me any questions.
Oh no, can you guys hear me?
She knows everything about me.
I do. Well, first, Cam, thank you so much for being here with our amazing students. I couldn't be happier with this conversation. And to Corey and Iman, you guys did phenomenal. So kudos to you. But Cam, at Georgia State, we have a very thriving innovation and entrepreneurship program. And so just to kind of put you on the spot, if you were ever asked to be like an adjunct professor and design your own course, what would be the title of that course?
The title of that course would probably be, this is hard. I should have an answer like this already. Title of that course would probably be, sheesh, this is tough. There's actually a good name for it. But I don't know if it's cheesy. It'd probably be Can't Knock the Hustle. And I feel like that's so cheesy because it's Jay. But it's true. I think like I Can't Knock the Hustle, because I would be like, a course that I would teach would just speak to, the integrity of the work, and then, the work kind of shining through first, and then what you build around it as far as like ideas, strategy, execution. But I think it all starts with the hustle and like the willingness to get up and do quality work.
I love it. And I have a second question because a lot of my AAMI boys, they are sneaker heads. And so I'm curious, how many sneakers do you have behind you? This is impressive.
Let me see. Now, you put me on the spot for my math too. Let me see. 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm just gonna go on the record and say probably like 107, which is probably a third of what I used to have. As I get older, a third. Yeah, I'm not proud of that. I've had to live over my means in like 3-bedroom apartments just so I could have room for my sneakers. I've had to like overpay for storage units. But the older I've gotten, I'm trying to like hold on to the pairs that I love. But yeah, I got everything over here, like mostly Jordans, Air Maxes, a few New Balances, some Adidas Ultra Boost. And then there's actually another shoe up here that I'm super proud of. It's a shoe I actually designed for Nike, that was supposed to drop last year before the pandemic, but fingers crossed it drops this summer. It's a Air Max 270. I'll pull it out, show it to y'all. And y'all can tell me if it's ugly, if it's good. Can you see it? Yeah, so I decided, please tell me if it's ugly. I'll go back and change it. But no, sneakers were my first love. I grew up, you know, as like I said before, in hip hop culture. So it's like you always needed a good pair of Air Force Ones. You always, you know, you needed a good pair of shell toes back then. Then that evolved into Jordans and all that. So yeah, sneakers are my first love. If you guys ever want to, you know, kind of sneak into networking with me, talk to me about shoes.
Thanks, Cam. Corey always tells us that we don't have any drip. So Corey, you got to step your drip up now.
Yeah, this has been amazing. You guys are amazing young people. I'm so sad we didn't get to do it in person like we were supposed to initially, but this has been just as great. This has been just as great.
Yes, and we really appreciated getting the chance to talk to you and learn so much about your journey. And hopefully, everyone that attended, including myself, takes away a lot of great things from what you said.
Yes.
But we don't want to hold you guys too long. We don't want to hold you too long. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And in closing, we want to leave you with a quote by Nipsey Hussle, who said, "Success or greatness comes with a roller coaster ride. Anybody can apply the marathon concept to what they do." Nip was focused on giving solutions than anything, and we would like to thank Cameron for imparting his wisdom and inspiring us today with his story. Corey, do you want to say anything?
I got you. And so, additionally, we are grateful for all of you who have joined us today for this online conversation. Our hope is that you will leave feeling inspired to stay 10 tones down and you'll write your own success stories. And so, the marathon continues. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Cam, for being here. And y'all have a great evening, great night. You know, y'all be safe.
Thank you, guys. Yes, you good.